Hello, beautiful people. It's me, Maris. It's Thursday. My goodness, there's been so much going on that the energy just kind of like fluctuates back and forth all over the place. And you could do a reading and it might not be, like a blanket reading, and it might not be the same thing in an hour because the energy changes. And free will has a lot to do with how frequently and how easy energy can change. Often in a reading, when you're doing a reading, it's as if you were sitting back and doing absolutely nothing. You're just letting it flow out or play out, right? That's what, a reading kind of says. If you didn't do anything to intervene, this is what's going to happen, or this is where it's leading to. And then when you get that reading, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, now that I know this information, I can make choices that might change, or hopefully change, what's in my energy forecast or what's in that path. And so when you're doing like a one-on-one or for couples, you can narrow down that energy and be a little bit more time specific, or be a little bit more specific to that person. But when you are doing a kind of like an energy forecast for everybody, that energy fluctuates, and depending on what deck you're using, who you're, who's present looking at it, it can have 1,000 different factors that would change that. So I've got my sage burning here, so let's go ahead and bless our sacred space. And I've been kind of like smudging these. I just did an online reading, and so with this deck, and this deck's like on fire today, in a good way. I like a good way. And then of course my hands, because I always like to kind of ask my hands be cleansed, and so that as they touch that deck, that I am not bringing other junk into that reading or into that deck. Especially things like biases or perspectives that, really have nothing to do with the energy that perhaps my own through there. So you can hear my dog barking in the back. That's Kari's. And then I got another one growling at my feet, I'm like, what's the deal? It's growling at another dog. Because everybody wants to be a part of the reading. Benny loves to be up on my lap when I'm doing readings. He likes to pay attention and see what's going on and what's happening, who's looking. Yeah, he loves that. Especially like when I do the one-on-one readings on Google Meet. He likes to get up there and look at the picture of the other person on the screen. He likes that for some crazy reason. It's like he hears a voice, and so he wants to put a face with the voice. I'm using this Inner Wisdom deck. It's like one of those Amazon decks that you buy for like $10. I really like it. It's kind of pretty. The outside of the other side of the deck, it's pretty. It's like got a lot of purples and pinks in there, so there's a lot of good energy. Big gold butterflies. I like that. Okay, now the dogs are getting chastised by Dad. So, okay, let's see if we've got anything else. So do me a great big favor. Don't forget to love this video. Give it a great big heart. And comment where you're watching from, or if you'd like, if you have any questions. Okay. Gee. Okay, let's ask if we have anything else. Is there anything else to add on to this reading? And see if anything else comes flying out that's trying to, but last words. Okay, that one right there. All right, so I've got quite a handful of cards here, and I usually put them up 3 at a time. So do me a favor, grab yourself something to eat or drink as I'm setting these first cards up. We had a Reiki 1 class this weekend, and it was really a lot of fun, a lot of good energy. There was a mom-daughter duo with a lot of good high energy, very, very talented people coming together for that class. So without further ado, let's look at our first row of cards. And the first card that comes out is the perspective card. And the obstacle is responsibility. And then loss is in the help card. And so when I'm looking at all three of these, and let's start with this perspective. So this is gaining, and I don't want to say eyesight, but gaining vision, getting a picture of what is going on in and around your zone. This is in your personal life, also as in how the outside world affects you. Okay, so this is a perspective. The things that you are being, that you're being shown or that you're seeing are to give you a greater insight into not only yourself, but how you perceive the world around you. That responsibility card here is about self-reflection, and it's in the challenge card. And none of us like to do self-reflection, especially when we start to examine things that make us feel uncomfortable. And that's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the responsibility card in this center position, or in what I would call the challenge, is that it's going to be a time of reflection, self-reflection, and looking at how you play a role in your own life and how that affects not only yourself, but the people that are around you. So I'm like, shadow work time. And some of you are like, I hate shadow work. I don't like shadow work. Well, it's a time for shadow work, because there are some things that are coming up that you need to deal with. And that's where I'm looking at this loss card. And the phrase that I got when I was like putting those in was that sometimes you have to cut your losses in order to gain. Sometimes, Benny's being really loud, I apologize. Sometimes you have to cut your losses in order to gain. And that is what is happening here, is that as you're looking at things from a new perspective, not so much different, but a more clarified perspective, this probably ends up being different. You have to start making some choices, and some of those choices are going to be what I'm going to call rather uncomfortable. Nobody likes to, have to cut somebody off for whatever reason, or cut out things from your life for whatever reason. Okay, interesting. All right, so where is this leading up to in our energy? Because we're looking at, okay, so today is Thursday. It's, the day after full moon, so we're still in full moon energy through there. And this is a time of a lot of intuition, a lot of ability to see things as they are. And that's going to lead up to a little bit of self-uncomfortableness, because you're going to have to be admitting some of those things that maybe you didn't want to admit. And that's where we're looking at guarded. And I'm going to say guarded is, when I'm looking at this card, what I feel a lot more happening here is being more selective. Selective would have been, is a better word for the energy on here. This is where you're going to have to really make some decisions of what you will keep, what you will allow in, and what you are going to put out. And I'm going to say put out the gate, put out the door, what you're going to open that gate and throw it out. Things that you're going to release. You don't want to keep them around anymore. The problem here is that you're really pretty weak-kneed with it, and it's it's a lot of emotional attachment to some of the things that you're going to come up across this with during this time frame here. And we're looking at Thursday into, like early next week, that you're going to feel weak-kneed and almost doubting some of the choices that you make. And that's where that headstrong upside down, it's like, your weakness, your nurturing spirit, your loving self is going to struggle with that. And it's one of those things that keeps you in a place, this survivor right here, keeps you in a place of what I'm going to call Hess. That's my nice way of saying everything in my life is so chaotic and just so effed up. Well, it's in the Hess. It's still, when I'm saying crumbling, falling apart, the junk is still falling down. It's not a part of your foundation. It's not a part of your, if you were a statue, it's not a part of your statue. It's not a part of who you are. Those things have to break apart. They have to break off. They have to fall apart. And yeah, you're going to feel weak. You're not going to feel like you're empowered or moving or growing with that. It's going to feel as if you are really going into a place of what I would call some Hess. It's like all the people that I loved, man, like they don't love me back anymore. Well, it's not that they don't love you back anymore. They don't love the fact that you're seeing things about them, whether it's about things that they do or things that they believe that really don't jive with who you want to be and who you are. It's kind of like you're ready for some change, you're ready for growth, and they're okay with the way things have been going or the way things are. And that's not you right now. You're ready for growth. You're ready for change. You're ready to be the best version of yourself. You've been talking about this since January 1st. I'm going to do all of these things. And that person or those people, those things, those places, they're not growing with you the way that you want to grow. And that's part of the issue there. Now, when I'm looking at this comfort card, what I really like about this comfort card is that I'm going to say, sometimes I'll ask my clients, are you sure that's where you want to be? Are you sure that's what you want to do? And if there's any shadow of a doubt, then that's not really what they want to do. It's just an idea and it sounds great. If there's a shadow of a doubt, that's not what you want to do, right? So when I'm looking at this card in the comfort, what I'm getting in here is that the choices that you make, as difficult as they will be, they bring you a lot of comfort, and that security right through there is, even though you're a little bit on the hesitant side, a little bit of self-doubt, it's a good choice. It's a good run. It's a good direction to be moving into. You want to remain in a place of caution and not making rash moves through there. And the best part on that is that we have the recharge, the refresh and recharge card in the help section. So it's talking about going back and just watching, seeing. The things that you need to see will become very apparent through there. And I'm like, sometimes people have a difficult time maintaining their facade. And that facade starts to fall apart. Allow the facades on other people to fall apart so that you know what you're really working with when you're making choices in regards to people, places, and things. Because sometimes things may look in one manner, and as they kind of, and I'm going to use the phrase fall apart, that you see what they really are in actuality. And that's the focus of that last line, is that just to kind of pay attention and allow things to fall in their own place. It is your time right now. This is where you can let your light shine. This is where you can shine a light on yourself, as in what you are bringing forth, what you're doing that raises a vibration. I'm making really good choices. Look at me. And it's okay to do that. On that move on card, when you are working in that energy, when you're working in that energy of putting yourself into balance, you can't look back on the things that you leave behind, whether it's bad habits, bad relationships, bad scenarios, bad jobs, whatever. You cannot look back at it. You have to stay forward and looking forward. Going back will pull you back into that loop or back into that negative. No, it doesn't even really have to be negative, but back into that stagnant energy. You're not going to grow from it if you keep looking back and trying to reattach. This love yourself, and I'm going to say the love yourself is upside down, and it is also in the help section. And I'm going to say that egos aren't always bad. Sometimes that ego keeps us in check, especially when we have what I'm going to call of grandeur, where we think that we're all of that and a bag of chips and a Dr. Pepper too, and that we're invincible and nothing can bring us down. Okay, so we've got that. That's a super inflated ego. And then we have that other part of the ego that is constantly that negative self-talk in your head. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not handsome enough. You're not rich enough. You're not this. You're not that. Blah, blah, blah. That negative self-talk is on that other extreme. This love yourself upside down in the help part is saying be realistic about yourself and honor yourself. Don't focus that your visions of grandeur where you're better than or have more than or whatever, but also be mindful about, don't dog yourself. Give yourself credit where credit is due. That's really important as you're going through this kind of funky transition, of having to let things go and kind of work things in a different perspective. All right, so this next line, and then this is the second to the last line, and this one's a real... And I'm going to go like card by card on this one and then take them all three. All right, so the first card that we're looking at here is the sacrifice. And this is like, what did you give up? What did you relinquish? What boundaries did you give up to be in the here and now? Were those things worth it? Were the people that you give up, all of these things that you let go of to be in this position or where you are right now? The question is, and I guess this would be a good shadow work question, is what have you given up to be where you are, and was it worth it? Regardless if things were worth it or not, that's hindsight, that those things happened in the past. It is about your perspective and what you're going to do with those experiences. And that's where you get this be here now. This is that whistle. It's kind of like someone snapping and going, okay, focus here, focus here, focus here, be here now. That's the challenge. You can't look back with regret. You can't look back with the woulda, shoulda, couldas. You have to be in the here and now. And then this next card, this third card here, the help, is self-centered. How is this changing who you are, and how are you going to allow it to mold or refocus what your responsibilities and perspectives are. That's what this self-centered through here has to do with. This next is a little bit brutal. And I'm noticing that Facebook is trying to like cut me out. And I'm like, maybe somebody doesn't want to hear this message and quit sending me those energy. Let this video flow. I'm giving you what you need to hear. All right, so this last line, and I'm like, don't shoot the messenger, but it's regret. And I'm going to say you're going to have those feelings of regret. You cannot allow those feelings of regret shape the path that you're walking on. You cannot allow those feelings of regret to shape the way that you want to, or shape your focus of where you're going and what you're doing in that here and now. The obstacle here is that you're going to have to stand your ground, even though you feel weak and almost vulnerable to some of the choices that you're going to be making this weekend. It's something that you have to stand your ground on. You can't allow it to manipulate new feelings, new perspectives, and new views on not only yourself, but the world around you. And then the very last card here is hatred. And I'm going to say you're probably going to have to take in a lot of heat this week, the rest of this week and over the weekend. And people aren't going to be very happy with you. They're not going to like what you have to say. They're not going to like that you're going to have new boundaries and new rules of engagement. They're not going to be happy about it. And they are going to, the energy that is, I'm going to say they're going to really try to make your life a lot of grief, give you a lot of grief, give you just a hard time for you standing up for yourself and protecting yourself, bringing yourself to a place that you have inner peace, inner balance, and that you can be the most authentic version of self. Sometimes people just don't want to hear what you have to say, and that's because it has nothing to do, or it is not in agreement with what they have to say, and they're not willing to compromise. That's their own vulnerabilities and their own weaknesses, and in actuality, it has nothing to do with